language. We love our religion, our culture, our God. And many of us, by the way we act, we even lost our mind. Here it is. Bam! And you say, God damn. Hey, yo, so once again, we are back with the Doc and GM show, NBA Weekly Recap. I am GM. I'm along with my partner, Doc.
I'm the Doc. What's going on?
Sure, same thing, man. Every Saturday night, usually it works out that we kind of recap what happened in the week that was in the NBA. Mm-hmm. With no exceptions, we'd like to do it. But first, I'd like for you to tell our listeners where we can be found, please.
You can find us on SoundCloud, Doc and GM on SoundCloud. Soon to be on YouTube at Doc and GM NBA Recap. So, hit us up.
And so by Doc, that's DOCANDGM, and that's on SoundCloud. And where else, please?
And YouTube.
All right. So we see we have some listeners out there. Once again, we appreciate that. Listen, share, critique, but just keep listening. We appreciate that. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. I think one of the big things for me that happened, Doc, this week was a scoring milestone was accomplished by one Kevin Durant.
KD, Durant.
He joined the 20,000 point club. Mm-hmm. It's a rare club. It's a exclusive club. Yeah. It's a I can get buckets
big
club buckets. Over an extended number of years club. It was reported a couple of times. Well, matter of fact, is that a big deal to you? KD getting 20,000.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I was going to say
these guys. He's a born scorer, so I mean it's not surprising he's got 20K. But
so you agree that he's an elite scorer. He belongs in that conversation of some of the great ones of all-time scoring greats.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Now it was reported that he is the second fastest to do that. Mm-hmm. I think LeBron is the first fastest.
Yes, he is.
Is the fact that he is to you the second fastest to do that? Is that a thing? Like we know, we've already said scoring 20,000 points is a thing, correct?
Right.
That's a thing.
I mean, that's a big thing.
Okay. Is the fact that he scored 20,000 points in doing said thing? He was the second fastest
youngest
to do that in the NBA. Uh-huh. Is that a thing?
Is that a thing?
Yes.
Kinda.
That's how they reported it.
Well, I don't think it should be reported as such. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of those tidbits. Mm-hmm. Who was the second youngest? Who? I mean, who really wants to know that? You usually want to know who was the youngest to do it. So him being the second youngest to do it, is that even relevant?
Right.
Is it even relevant in the terms of how fast he did it? How many games? This kind of thing. How many shots versus some other people? So it's just a little add-on fact. Like, to me, if I was writing that, I'd probably just leave it at KD scored 20,000. Yeah, but I don't know if that second youngest thing was too relevant.
Yeah. When I read the headline, it said KD joins the 20,000 point club, mm-hmm. second fastest to do so.
Right.
And I said to myself, well, I just read one thing. I didn't read two things because the second thing is not a thing. Because if you look at it, basically what you're saying is, like we said, he can score in volume. And so big props to him for that. But the fact that he's the second youngest, I mean, you have to look at who is in that club. Mm-hmm. And we're talking the names of course, Wilt Chamberlain's, LeBron's, of course, he's the youngest to do it. LeBron, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kobe
Bryant, yes, those individuals, and I think there's 6 of them, 7 of them.
What's that?
20,000 points.
No, it's much more.
Way more than that. That's right, because you got Karl Malone.
Maybe you thinking maybe the 30.
Yeah, I'm thinking the all-time scores. But anyways, at that point with the 20,000 points, there's many of those people like the Karl Malones that I just mentioned. I somehow tried to overlook, but forgive me for that. But many of those people, Michael Jordan, many of those people went to college 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. Kevin Durant, he went 1 year, which if he hadn't gone to college, he probably would have been the youngest. Which LeBron is the youngest. He didn't go to college at all. So I think the fact that he's the youngest to do it, it bears no significance to the NBA because some people started very, very much younger.
Yeah, but he started young and was getting buckets young.
Yeah, I got you. He was getting. We're not talking about him not being able to get buckets.
Mm-hmm. Just saying the age thing is irrelevant.
Yeah, age thing is irrelevant because if some would say, like for example, it took. Well, here's the thing. You're saying the age thing is relevant.
Slightly.
Okay, check it out. If like the fastest to do it, I think is a more significant stat.
I'll give you that.
Was Wilt Chamberlain. He surpassed that 20,000 point mark in 499 games.
Mm-hmm.
They say MJ was just a little over 600. Jabbar was in the 600s, and KD is 700 games plus to get to that 20,000 point mark. So, but like you say, he was in the league young, getting buckets. If you just have to extrapolate in your head, if MJ had started at 18,
sure,
he still would have got buckets.
Would he have done the same thing if he played with Russell Westbrook throughout his career?
Who?
Michael Jordan. It's eating up shots. Let me tell you a little story real quick.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a little story real quick.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. You asked me a question. Russell Westbrook wears Michael Jordan gear. So I think, yes, Michael would have got what he needed, what he wanted, had he played with the guy. I'm just saying.
You're missing the point.
No, my point is, I know Russ is type A and has the ball, but there's no letter for what Mike was.
Sure.
When it talks,
but that matters.
So you say.
Certainly it does.
So
if you're the number one option, hands down, for instance, okay, LeBron is the youngest to do it. KD's the second youngest, then Kobe. Okay, so you talk about these other guys who were next in line. You know, I think Wilt was the next youngest, and then Mike, I think, was the next youngest. Is that correct?
No.
So either way, those guys were number one scoring options the whole time. They weren't sharing the ball with Steph. They weren't sharing the ball with Russ. If KD was not sharing the ball with those kind of guys throughout his career, he'd probably be the youngest of that 20K. He'd probably be well above where he is now. Yeah, like I was just about to say, it was an all-star game. And, you know, it said that Kobe Bryant was trying to pull out the fabric a little bit of OKC. Because he went in there and told Russell Westbrook, there's no way in the world KD should be leading the league in scoring with you on this team. You deserve more shots, and that you're too good to have him being in a position to be leading the league in scoring. I mean, there's some truth to that. Those guys weren't sharing the ball with dynamic scorers. So KD could average even more points had he been thriving in a system where he wasn't needed to share the ball like Michael Jordan. He wasn't sharing the ball with those kind of guys.
I am of the contention, unlike you and KD, that they shared the ball very well, except for down the stretch when it counted. And if they would have done that, he still would have been on the same scoring pace because he's scoring. Hold on, he's scoring less in Golden State now.
That's my point.
No,
yeah.
He was scoring more with Russ.
But I said Curry too.
But either way,
like I said, my point is he would be scoring more points if he was in an environment where wasn't with other great scorers.
Either way, Wilt did it in 200 games plus less.
Sure.
So that's more significant than how young we were. If Wilt would have started at the same age and still had
it would have been playing with Curry, Clay, and Russ.
He still scored points. So again, that's the main story.
That is the main.
That's
story.
the only story, in my opinion. Because again, if you're second youngest, that's got no significance. Because you again, without looking at who did it. Again, he wasn't the fastest to do it.
No.
He wasn't the second fastest to do it. So
he was. Oh, you mean the second fastest?
Right.
Not the second youngest. Sure.
From start to finish, from the time we start to the time we get to 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the number of people that did it, he's not first, second, third. He's not any of those things.
Okay.
So the second has no second youngest has the only thing that's got nothing to do with. Again, to me, that's not a thing. The fact that he
Somebody
did
made
it
a thing. The author.
the fact that he did it is a thing, but the fact that he's second youngest is not a thing. Matter of fact, there was another thing that I heard through the weekend talking about records. What do they mean? What could they mean? I was watching when LeBron and Cleveland, and we'll get into them a little later, but they were playing Minnesota this week, and LeBron finished that game with 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
He ended. I think they took him. It was a blowout, if you remember.
Yeah.
They took him out. I think midway third quarter. Never re-entered the game, but he ended the game with 10 points. And so one of the things they were talking about that he has the current streak in the NBA at that time for 10-point games in a row. 10 points plus. Double digits plus at 831 and counting.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's had a couple games since then, and he's gotten over double digits. And the record for that is one Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who has 866 said games.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a mere 30 plus games. And I was wondering, thinking, could there be a hero that could stop LeBron for one night and keep him to 9 points? But that probably won't happen. But I think that's another record that will be broken, but an old school hoophead would challenge, because it's the record. It will be the record. It's going to be the record, but I think that 866 would have been way, way, way more. Because don't think that LeBron. Okay, what I'm saying is don't think that if LeBron's passed, that gives you another feather in your cap, saying that if you're a LeBron fan, he's better than Michael. Because the 866 would be, in my opinion, way higher had Mike not taken a couple years off and played baseball.
Okay.
So, but we can't prove that. But anyway,
if I was 7 foot tall, I'd be in the league right now.
That's again another record that's going to be broken. So we'll move on. I think the next thing we wanted to talk about was it's a troubling thing for me. This week there has been several dust ups, we'll say.
Dust up. It's been a little chippy. Been a little chippy this week.
There were some punches thrown.
Yes.
Whether they were fake punches, whether they were punches that wanted meant to land, or there were punches thrown. And that's not something that's going to be good for the league, in my opinion. First, I think it was Tuesday, the Heat and the Raptors.
That was a good game, by the way.
Yes, it was, which the Heat won. We'll get into them in a little bit, too. But there was two little flare-ups during that game. There was one where James Johnson for the Heat was kind of trading forearms in the paint on a dead ball situation, if I'm not mistaken, with a Serge Ibaka.
Fake tough guy.
Tough guy?
Fake tough guy.
Oh, fake tough guy. I was going to say, isn't he the one that unfolded his fist when
he
went toe-to-toe with Ron Artest? I'm pretty sure he was that guy.
I would have done the same thing, though.
But anyways, well, I don't know. To me, if I'm in a fight, I'm not going to unball him.
It's an NBA fight. That's not a real fight.
Yeah, I got you. But okay, so anyways, he gets into it with a James Johnson. And I don't know if you know or the fans know, James Johnson, I don't think is a wannabe tough guy. I think he's a legitimate tough guy.
Absolutely.
If you do or don't know the stats on James Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, he is a black belt in karate.
He's the guy you least want to fight in the NBA.
He is a member of a family that has 8 children. If I'm not mistaken, all 8 are black belts. All of his siblings, be they male or female, are black belts.
And mom and dad.
Mom and pops are black belts.
Come around that house acting crazy if you want to.
Matter of fact, you can get into a professional league and act crazy if you want to, because if I'm not mistaken, he's had 8 MMA fights that's been reported, and he's 8-0 in said MMA fights. And so he and Serge Ibaka kind of squared off. Serge threw a punch, didn't land. James Johnson balled his fist up in a cocked-like motion.
Oh, man, he gave him a quick 2-piece. He didn't land, but he let him know.
Right,
I got these fists of fury over here.
Right, and it seems like the one bomb that he wanted to land or could have landed anytime he wanted to, the ref grabbed in a timely manner, and so that he was unable to unleash it. There was another situation. Well, in that game, where at the end of the game, who was it?
Dragic
from
DeMar DeRozan got into it.
DeRozan got into it. They got into a little pushing, shoving match. I think DeRozan may have claimed that Dragic may have spit on him or spit at him.
There was some spittle.
If you look at the film closely, you can kind of see Dragic's mouth. I didn't actually see spit come out.
I didn't see any spit, but
so
it
now,
looked like he might have attempted it.
His mouth muscles change. We'll say that, and I'll take DeRozan at his word, and as well when an incident happened, you can see DeRozan swipe directly towards his mouth. So that happened, in that game. If I'm not mistaken, Portland and Houston are in a game that's pretty much a blowout.
It's not a blowout, but it's a done deal.
It was it 10 plus?
Nah,
it wasn't 10 plus.
It was about 7, I think.
Okay, 7 plus, but it's real late in the game. I think there's a steal by Trevor Ariza. He gets the ball to Chris Paul, and instead of the customary
dribble out the clock.
What he called? Matter of fact, it was what is that? The customary unwritten rule of dribbling out the clock. Chris Paul goes for a 2 layup and a 1. Dame Lillard took exception to that, if I'm not mistaken.
He didn't like that at all.
No.
Tried to strip the ball out of his hand.
Well, first he went to him. He went face to face and asked him, "What did that get you? What did that 2 points get you?" And Chris Paul was like, "Huh? What are you even talking about?" And so he asked him the question again. And when Paul kind of ignored his question, Dame Lillard swiped at the ball and tried to knock it out of his hand. Chris was a little too fast for him, and so that didn't happen. And so
I heard Chris told him that's why you're not in the State Farm clique no more.
Oh, is that what he told him?
Nah, I'm just talking trash.
Yeah. Well, again, that situation happened this week. Rodney Hood, he plays for the Utah Jazz. They were in a away game against the Wizards, which the Utah Jazz ended up winning that game. But there was a little mix-up with Rodney Hood and the officials, and Rodney Hood was ejected. And on Rodney Hood's way off the court, a fan from the Wizards was using his cell phone to record said ejection.
Right.
To which Rodney Hood took exception to.
And slapped that phone out of his hand.
Yes, so let's hope Buddy had a good case on his phone, or else some good insurance, or he may have a crack.
Yeah, it's not a good look, Rodney.
But the NBA hit him, I think, with a $35,000 fine.
Yeah.
So no, that's definitely not a good look when you lose that. Well, believe me, I can't imagine losing that kind of money or even more. And then there was another situation this week where a top rookie, Ben Simmons, got into a mix-up with Marquise Morris.
Marcus.
Is it Marcus Morris?
Yeah.
Okay, of the Boston Celtics in the game that was actually in London. So, in front of...
Went overseas acting silly, man.
Yeah, you're in front of a foreign crowd doing this. And then last night, which would have been Friday night, the maybe biannual LeBron and Lance Stevenson mix-up happens. So all these things, your thoughts on these mix-ups that happened this week, sir?
It's got to stop. It's kind of bad right now when you think about it. I mean, it's not 80s bad. It's not Detroit bad boy bad. But when you got a league that is actively growing and expanding, and we were just talking about how they had their game in London, you don't necessarily want your marquee players get into little dust ups like this all the time. It's kind of a bad look for the league, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. You're kind of tarnishing what you're trying to shine up.
I mean, we were talking earlier this year about your boy in Phoenix, Trevor Booker, where he was having a run in every other game. So it's not new. Some of these guys are kind of heated right now, and it's a little too much to help this league grow.
No, yeah, I agree. I saw a couple of reports that talked about the viewership in the NBA this year being up from this time last year. ESPN reports that it's up as much 24%. SB Nation says that Nielsen said that the NBA rating is up as much as 32%. So depending on who you look at, all indicators are that the NBA's viewership is up, and so.
Don't mess that up.
No, it's like that Biggie Tupac thing. When you got them, keep them. Don't give it back.
Silly beef.
Yeah.
Turn people off.
Right. Again, you got ejected, Mr. Hood, and so people have and own phones, and so if they choose to record you, you may not like it, but I'm pretty sure that's their right.
I mean, heck, we even had players squaring off with the ref with Deshaun Livingston in the ref situation. So. It's kind of testy out there. What's this all about, I wonder?
Well, I mean, that's hard to say. Some say it's bad officiating, which is, I mean, again, these guys you're talking about football and did the head move these guys are moving 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. And like the Ben Simmons one.
Put it this way, they're moving much quicker than your eyes are moving.
Right.
Or one's eyes can move. So are they going to miss stuff? Absolutely. I think what they need to figure out is the replay situation.
Better use of replay.
Somehow, some way, because they're going to miss stuff, and so when they miss stuff, you got a type A personality like LeBron. You got a type A personality like Draymond Green. Mm-hmm. They're going to get demonstrative about that, and then with that said, the referees are going to say, "Well, you're showing us up," and then they're going to be quicker with the trigger on. Technicals, and like we talked about earlier on a couple earlier podcasts, where LeBron was ejected after just one tech.
Yeah.
So you get the referees with it. So it's a slippery slope. But the main thing I can say, I think they have to figure out the replay situation, and they have to extend it a little further than the 2 minutes, because things happen at 2:10, things happen at 3:10, things happen at 2:10 in the first quarter that affect the outcome of the game. And so, again, is it going to take longer? I mean,
a little bit, but not much.
But at this point, yes, it will take longer. And again, I guess we're talking not much. If you're talking all the professional sports, a football game, you're in for 3.5 hours.
You're stuck.
Easy.
Yes.
A baseball game, there's no time limit, so you have no idea how long you're in for that one. So it's the fastest of the NBA of the professional sports.
Yeah, majors.
So if you extended 10 minutes to get it right, I mean, they didn't want it for football. Oh, it's going to take too long, but they need it, and they have to have it now. No matter, again, to me, it's better to get it right, even if it takes a little longer. So I think that's one of the things they need to work out, which would help the situation. Because
and just the reffing in general, you think that'll help out? Because they have this big meeting, all-star break with some of the players and the refs. Now, we're talking about some of the beefs that's been going on between the refs and players. Do you think that'll help officiating? What may help?
You're going to have to prove to me that it will, because what I think
this meeting will help officiating.
Right, because what I think is going to happen is you got NBA divas saying we need this, and then you got the referees who they can't comment publicly. Referees are forbidden from doing interviews and things like that. They still going to think they're going to stick to their guns. They're not going to say, "Oh yeah, we're doing a bad job. Our bad. We'll do better." I don't see them saying that. Right. So it's going to be in my opinion, that meeting There's going to be two stubborn people in rooms saying we're right and you're wrong.
I think it can work out if they have the right people involved in the meeting.
If it's not collectively bargained, it ain't gonna mean anything.
Well, then there's that.
So you're not going to collectively bargain anything at a meeting at the All-Star break.
It's not necessarily about collectively bargaining. It's more
yes,
like
because
laying
that's
out
the bottom
grievances.
line.
No, it's about laying out grievances because some of the players feel like these refs have a personal thing out for individuals, and that it's an individual thing that they're subjected to. So if you are a player and you're playing a game and the ref is known not to like you, you're already going into that game knowing you got 2 fouls against you just because you stepped on the floor that night.
Now,
so I think a lot of players are trying to solve that, where there's certain refs who have it out for certain players because of past incidents.
Well, now with that said,
every game you got to write the slate clean.
You know that true. In
some
theory,
refs aren't doing that.
In theory, that's what you should do. But
sure.
in life, is that what you do?
I mean, that's why they got to talk about it.
I understand. So what I'm saying is, even once they talk about it, the day after they talk about it, that referee is going to look and say, that's Draymond, and they're going to hit him with a tee the first chance that they get.
Or Draymond's going to go out there and cuss the ref out for a call.
Which is why I'm saying, when they talk about whatever they're going to talk about at All-Star break, it's not gonna make any difference.
Yeah. All right then.
But we'll see. You know, we could be wrong. All right, so we talked about this a little bit last week.
Okay.
And we kind of this next story, I should say, and we kind of chuckled it off as, and we talked about this every year, the year before that, and the year before that, and it didn't mean anything. But so we're gonna bring it back up, and like, are we gonna say the same thing? So the thing that I'm talking about is Cleveland Cavaliers cannot win a basketball game. It seems
struggling right now.
Now in their last 9 games, I think they're 2-7. A few of them have been massive blowouts.
2 back-to-back massive blowouts by 30+ points. It's not a good.
Now they started the season slow,
and they blew a 22-point lead and lost.
Yeah. But we know that it doesn't mean anything because again, they started the season slow, and they got hot, and everybody was like, "Oh, yeah, this is Cleveland's back." And then since Christmas, they can't seem to win a basketball game basically. And then everybody's talking about, well, okay, there's blood in the water. People want them. People feel that they can get them. There's a chink in the armor. What happens? Or is there blood in the water, or is it going to be, well, we'll still see him against so-and-so in the finals? Is it different this year, I guess is my question.
There's blood in the water.
Is it different than last week? Because we asked the same question last week. We asked this question last week.
Is it different than last week?
Yeah, because I asked this question to you last week.
Yeah. Because now they've lost 3 in a row.
Okay.
They were blown out by 30+ twice in a row.
Sure.
They had a 22-point lead and lost it.
Yes, last night.
And LeBron James was on the sideline yelling and having a fit, trying to do anything to get his team to get the act together. So it's huge right now.
FYI, that LeBron tantrum it made me smile. So it's big right now. So it's big. So the question is different than it was last week. Is it different than it was from last year and in years past with a LeBron-led team?
Yes.
Be it in Cleveland, the last couple of years in Cleveland. It's different.
Man, it's way different.
Way different?
Oldest team in the league right now.
Big.
Isaiah's back, but is he?
Well, he had, 1 or 2 good games, but some games were not good.
I mean, they've lost 3 in a row. Hadn't been looking good in some of those losses.
Yeah, now he doesn't play. He doesn't play in back-to-back games.
Sure, so he missed one of those.
Right, D Wade missed one, I think, as well.
So that doesn't bode well for them. Health, availability is the best ability.
Yeah.
So we know how that goes. So it's bad to me. And then there's rumors, saying that some players in the Cavs feel like LeBron is is slowing them down in his effort to hunt assist. So it seems like there may even be a locker room chemistry issue. J.R. Smith has been MIA since Dwayne Wade got there and took his starting spot, then gave it back to him. He still hasn't shown up. It's some people feel in that organization that in the locker room that Tristan Thompson should be starting. They got beef with the lineups Tyronn Lue runs. So yes, the sky is falling in Cleveland right now.
You know, as much as I want you to be correct,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to play devil's advocate and say until... Because, at this point right now, say tomorrow night, especially if the game actually meant something. Now, sure, these regular season games mean something for your standings, which is why I think LeBron was kind of going off in the timeout huddle, because he doesn't want to keep losing and be third or fourth or whatever in the East and have a harder climb, to retain the Eastern Conference title champion.
Mm-hmm.
But in a game, like for example, tomorrow was the playoff, was Game 6, Game 7. In the East,
Mm-hmm.
do I want to bet against? Am I going to bet against LeBron? Unfortunately, I want to,
Right.
but I wouldn't until I see someone actually do it. So my thing is, they're in an 82 game season, you're going to have one or two skids. You don't want it's not 2 out of 9 skids too often.
I put it this way: this team has championship ambition.
Sure, and my
The
thought
other
is they're
teams
going
that
to
have championship ambitions are not losing like this and looking like they did. Disinterested, poor defense, no effort on defense. But
But a LeBron-led team has looked like that before, where other championship teams have not. And the reason why they can afford to do that is because they have LeBron. And then when LeBron... I'm sorry?
I don't think those teams probably won the chip, though.
Who, LeBron-led teams?
Mm-hmm. Or maybe that's why his record in the finals is what it is. So maybe
sure,
he can still get out of the East.
That could be argued. That could be argued for sure.
Maybe he can still get out of the East like currently constructed. Maybe.
Say that again?
Say maybe he can get out of the East still.
That's what he's thinking. And
that Golden State juggernaut that destroyed them in the finals last year, that to me...
Oh no, they're not better than they are. They're currently constructed. They're not. But like that, like said,
or even the San Antonio.
Right. Right. So, but again,
maybe even Houston.
They figure they can get out of the East, and then once they get out of the East, their chances are 50-50 if nothing else.
I got you.
So I think that's where they stand with that. So I don't know. Am I tired of LeBron stock? Yes. After.
And then there's that. It may be wishful thinking on my part that this is something different than last year.
Let's
it could
see.
Be the same.
When was I ready? No, wanting, not ready. Because again, you got to sell if it's making you money, and that would be the LeBron stock. He when they went to the finals earlier on in his career, and they lost against San Antonio. I think they defeated the Pistons.
Yeah.
In the Eastern Conference Final.
Amazing.
So after that game,
I always call that LeBron's Neo moment when he realized he was on another level.
So and that's the thing. Once he realizes, I can take over this game. He can take over that game. And so now again, was he outmatched by Golden State last year? Absolutely, and he took over some games. I mean, did he average a triple-double in the finals?
He was outgunned because he averaged a triple-double.
He was. His team was outgunned.
Kyrie put up big numbers too, but they didn't have enough. I mean, we know how Golden State goes.
Strapped up.
Yeah, man.
That's how they go.
Yeah.
That's how they go. All right, so I don't know. So just put me down for right now. That the streak is not what you want, but not that meaningful as it pertains to the NBA.
Blood in the water, man. Those younger teams see it. Your Toronto Raptors that just demolished them.
I got you.
Like we
That's in a
always talk
one-game
about,
set.
that's the one thing is that some of these teams they seem to be timid when they come up against LeBron.
That's my
I'm
point.
not seeing that timidness these
Okay,
days.
but
And maybe it's because it's
this,
a Tuesday night in January.
okay.
So
Right, that's my point.
Yeah.
Like we talk about Harden. We know this is what we say. We know Harden's going to tear up the regular season,
Man.
but we know he's going to do X, Y, Z in the postseason.
And if XYZ means nothing at all, then yes.
Correct.
Disappear in a big moment.
That
yes.
is correct. I heard a stat like one of the games, early January game in Minnesota where they talked about Jimmy Butler, my guy. I love JB. He's a great player. He's an Olympian. So even if you don't love him, he's a hooper. You can't really contest that. They were saying that this was his 7th victory in a row versus a LeBron-led team.
Right.
And, you might think, oh, that's a big stat. But, LeBron's thinking, well, that's because we play a lot of regular season games against each other. None of these games are coming in the postseason.
Right.
So, again, other than us entertaining you fans tonight, that doesn't matter.
I hear you.
It's like the second fastest. So what? So what? He's beating them 7 times. And so what?
Yeah,
So there's been blood in the water. Toronto has what I'm saying. You got to do it. You have to do it for. So what I'm thinking is, Toronto has beaten them in the regular season.
Yeah,
I used to see the Bulls. I used to see the Bulls and Derrick Rose and Luol Deng beat them. No matter if they were with Miami or with Cleveland, they'd have a winning record versus a LeBron team every year. But when they got to the playoffs.
Playoff LeBron.
4-2 LeBron. It was playoff LeBron's. So
Yeah, I hear you.
nah. So I'm not selling.
In other words, what you're saying is, show me in the playoffs.
Exactly.
This is the Cleveland
all I'm saying is I'm not buying it.
Status quo.
I'm not buying into that something until someone shows me it's something. And right now, that you can beat them in January. Okay. Was LeBron mad about it? Okay. Did a couple of other teams think, oh well, this is our chance? Yeah, okay. But when when it gets down to it, did you actually do it? No, okay.
No,
because it didn't happen. He
feels,
goes to the finals.
Just feels a little different.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to see. All right, so we'll jump into some more NBA news.
Okay.
T-Wolves are streaking.
Yes, sir.
That was your pick to click, so to say. This year, your team that you adopted since your much loved Atlanta Hawks don't seem to be.
Well, they're going ping pong ball hunting, so I'm supporting the process, but sometimes I need something that's gonna provide wins to kind of stimulate me a little more.
So I remember in the preseason you told me you liked Minnesota and what they put together.
Yes, I do.
They're young and they got old. They got veterans, and so they got old quick. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They went giant killing this week with a big win, as we talked about a little earlier, against LeBron.
Yeah.
But the thing, matter of fact, they won their 27th and 28th game this week. I think it took them till mid-March of this time last year to eclipse that total.
Right.
They are still, they've been pretty much all year currently fourth in the West, I should say. Doesn't mean something. Doesn't mean anything.
What's that? That they're fourth
streaking,
in the West.
That they're hot. That they got a great team assembled. We talked about a couple of weeks ago. I thought that they had a good team, but I thought Tibbs was going to drive some of the good players into the ground. But I'm looking currently, the last few weeks, he's playing 8, 9, sometimes 10 players.
I'll say small sample size on that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Because he's Tibbs, he's known to go back to his old stuff.
Yes, the same thing. I saw him with the Bulls. He play a. We had what they called the bench mob, and those boys they not only got buckets, they got after it defensively. But once the playoff came, wouldn't put them in. So we know, yes,
Minnesota's starting to turn the corner and figure it out, because they, like we said, they've been winning. They've been in that 4, 5, 6 spot in the West pretty much all year. But there were some times when they didn't look great doing it. And right about now, it seems like they're starting to look a lot better doing it, getting a little more on the defensive end.
Yeah, they seem to have that defense down a little tighter. Matter of fact, Wiggins, which was I think the worst statistically graded player in the league on defense last year. He's not that this year. I've seen him play a couple times. He's much more active on defense, and I think that's a product of Tibbs and JB and Taj Gibson's leadership. Which again, Taj had a monster week this week. Again, he's not called on to get many touches, but what he does yeoman work around the basket. He gets buckets. He blocks shots. He defends the toughest players.
Most underrated player in the league.
Yeah,
hands down.
So yeah, but again, what does it mean? Does it mean fourth place right now?
It means they're good.
That would get you a home playoff spot. Okay,
but
that would get you a home playoff spot, which they played this team this week against Oklahoma City.
Right, they beat Oklahoma City this week.
Yes, they did. Could they do that 4 out of 7 times? But if both teams are currently constructed, and both healthy as they both are, or seem to be.
Because I adopted them, I want to say yes. But there's a lot of experience over in OKC.
Playoff experience.
Yes. And in Minnesota, 2 of their big guns have none, as in Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns.
Sure.
So you have no idea what you're going to get out of them. They don't even know what playoffs is all about.
Right. No, they have zero clue.
So as much as I like both of those guys and I want them to do some surprising stuff like walk into the playoffs as rookie playoff players and just do their thing, I don't know if I can believe that because I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I know what Jimmy's going to do. Well, he's playing at an MVP level right now quietly.
Well, that's kind of funny because Minnesota was your adopted team.
Yeah.
And the 5th team that we were talking about, if the season ended today and they matched up, OKC was my adopted team because I kind of liked how they assembled.
I did as well.
And so I will say in this instance that I think Minnesota might have the edge because they do have as aggressive player in a Jimmy Butler as Westbrook is. I think that Taj Gibson again is going to be a solid rock defensively, which is what you need in the playoffs. Because matter of fact, when he played Melo the other night, I'm gonna pull that game stat up, but he held Melo in check while doing his thing offensively, Taj, and so and the youth of Minnesota I think could be the difference maker. And as well, we're talking
could be the hindrance too. That's what I'm
right.
afraid
I got you. We'll never know. We'll have to.
We'll see.
They may not even play each other. One could be 3, one could be 6, one could be out, one could be in. So we'll see how
long
it
way to
up.
go.
But they're hot. I'm gonna tell you who's smoking hot. It's that Miami Heat team.
Man,
in the East.
Where did they come from?
You know what, man? I can't tell you, but I can tell you in the last 10, they're 8-2. They've won 6 in a row. They're winning. They're smacking people. They're spitting on people. They're doing what they want right now down there in the sun in Miami. They're currently number 4. They bumped a bunch of people because 2 weeks ago they weren't even in the playoff picture.
I mean, they're number 4 right now.
So one of their players, Dion Waiters, he's not even playing.
He's supposed to be their kind of go-to guy.
Nah, he's not even playing. Matter of fact, I think he's getting ready to have surgery.
Yeah, he may not even play this season.
So where they came from and where all of a sudden I can't answer that, but I'm telling you they're here. Whether or not they're here to stay, that remains to be seen.
Yes, it does.
But they're number 4. So there's 2 number 4s right now.
Keep in mind, the second half of last year, they had one of the best records in basketball.
Yeah, I got you, but we ain't talking about no history lesson. We want to talk about right now. And so right now they're hot, which, like you say, adds up to last year. But because, what could happen in the second half of this year?
We'll find out.
So that's a year and a half of hot basketball you're asking them to do. If they were hot last year, hot this first half of this year, that's a whole year of hot basketball.
Yeah.
Do they have another high? Because again, we're
They
basically
better.
at the
They
midway
better.
point. There you go. Whoa. Also in the news, man, I saw this story about, who's leading the fact that, last week we talked, the leading vote getters for the All-Star was, if I'm not mistaken, Antetokounmpo
Yes.
for the East. And who was it for the West?
It was, who was it in the West?
Not James Harden. No. Well, whoever it was. No, matter of fact, it was KD. Yeah, it was KD. And KD was saying that he didn't want, if he had it his way, he wouldn't be the captain, and he wouldn't have to have that burden of choosing who it was that was going to be on the team.
Yeah, he just said that, right?
Right, and then but this week those two are not the top vote getters. Top vote getters currently are one Steph Curry, and we're bringing back things back to what seems to be normal, LeBron James. Now, and both of those people are definitely more than willing and able, I think, to choose sides.
Well, Steph said he's all about it.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I don't like is they're not televising it.
Yeah, no, I really dislike that.
I mean, I dislike the fact KD said he didn't want to do it.
There's a bunch of things I don't like about that. But yeah, KD, that's a personal.
Really?
I guess that's a personal thing.
I guess,
if
man,
you
whatever,
if you
man.
want to, you say you're tired of being second, but you sometimes you give off type B vibes, and so what else are we supposed to surmise from that? And then all of a sudden you want to smack Boogie Cousins around, and so that's gonna take you back to the type A. So, I mean, we don't get it. We don't get it. We don't get it.
all over
Well,
the
I
place.
just say I don't get it, KD. But no, yeah, the fact that they're not going to televise it, man. That's basically the article I read was from Adam Silver, because much pressure has been put on the NBA to try and get them to actually televise it, because it's been announced for the last couple of weeks that it wasn't going to be televised, and the speculation has been because the players don't want the stigmatism of being "quote unquote" last picked for their.
Oh my God! Get
right.
over it.
They're
all-star.
they're, as they say, they're inside their feelings. But again,
this where we are.
Absolutely, because they don't want someone on Twitter saying you're the last All-Star.
Oh
And
no!
so, no, I'm just telling you that's exactly where we are.
KD picked me last.
so
Curry picked me
that's
last.
one of the
He
things,
doesn't like me.
Matter of fact, so with that said,
LeBron picking Kyrie.
no, I don't think so. I mean, we'll have to see. But again, if you're asking me, I don't think so. Now, again, he may do it for a PR move. See, I picked him. See, it doesn't mean it wasn't me that
Right, I like
started
Kyrie,
the story.
Sure.
But
I like playing with Kyrie. See, I even
Right.
picked him for the All-Star game.
Right.
See?
I think if he did it, and again, you're asking me, and I didn't. Me and LeBron have never sat down to have a conversation. But if you're asking me, if put it this way, if they were in doing pickup, and there were no cameras, no, LeBron would not pick Kyrie. But there's going to be cameras from China to
everywhere,
Bangladesh, and every place in between. So I think he might, because of that fact.
Well, we'll see. Well, too bad they're not going to televise it. That's all I got to say. That would be good TV.
Some other news that that I saw this week was Lou Williams is staying hot.
That's your guy.
Yeah, well, I won't say he's my guy, but he
called him out.
He was off the wall, definitely picked that probably people laughed at when I said he could and should make the All-Star team as a sixth man. But
I low-key laughed.
Oh, absolutely! I bet a bunch of other people laughed too. Matter of fact, quiet as kept, I laughed to myself. Like, come on, bro, man, you didn't mention LaMarcus Aldridge. There was a bunch of people that I may have left out, but I'm just saying, for what he's done for that team and for the himself, the numbers that he's put up for himself, those are all-star numbers that he's put up. Especially when you're talking about off the bench.
Off the bench.
Yes, those are.
And you know what he's done, and that he hasn't really been given a lot of credit for, is that Blake has been hurt a considerable amount of time. off the bench, he's kept them close. They're right under 500, fighting for that 8th spot in the West right now. So, kudos to Lou Will. Kudos to you for picking that out.
Well,
that he's been playing at an all-star level.
Again, I mean, a guy like Lou Williams, we've known he's a Jamal Crawford type that can get buckets from anywhere at any time on anybody. Sure. He's been a journeyman. Never had a lot of postseason success. But again, the All-Star game is should be a single season accomplishment. First, definitely based on the first half of the season accomplishment, and I think his numbers support the fact that he could and probably should be an All-Star.
Well, we'll see. I like to see it. Shout
matter
out
fact,
to Lou.
In a report that we talked about earlier, Jabari Parker, which has not played, I should say, an NBA game in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
He's back in the news in that the Bucks are saying that they're looking to have him back by All-Star break.
Like before the All-Star break, there, he should be back.
Now, when I said we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, we said that he was in the G League, or he had been placed in the G League, which usually, because of things like players' feelings, they're not going to be in the G League very long.
Right.
And so that was a couple of weeks ago. So what in the All-Star game, or All-Star break, I should say, we still have a couple of weeks before that happens. So why the delay? I mean, that was the thing that I asked before. What's taking them so long to come back? Are they being overly cautious? Of course, we don't know, but we speculate. I mean, are they being overly cautious with the kid? Was he really hurt?
He was really hurt.
I mean, that bad. I mean, of course not. I'm not thinking it's fake.
Fairly significant, knee injury. He seems to be back. It was part of the rehab, sending him down with the G League team, the Herd, as they're called.
Right.
They said it went well. It was mainly to get him in some 5-on-5. I don't think he played any games, but he mainly got in some run practice-wise. So let's get some reps.
Okay.
Yeah, get some reps, because the big team, they're on the road. They're doing this. They're doing that.
There's not a lot of practice.
Yeah,
there's a lot of walkthroughs and games.
Right. So this was for him to get some 5-on-5, get some reps. So seems like it's been beneficial for him. They said it's a big part of his rehab. So he'll be back soon. Good luck to Milwaukee. That's going to be a big boost for them.
It could be. So, but when is the All-Star break?
It is February. I want to say. I don't know. February. I want to say 19th is what jumps out of my head, but I'm not sure.
Real quick. NBA All-Star game. That's easily one. Use the Google machine. You can find that.
Before he went down, he was averaging over 20. So, I mean, they're potentially getting a 20-point scorer back to that lineup with Giannis. And then they added, Eric Bledsoe. So,
sure, and a dirty
Tony Snell,
a dirty Dellavedova.
I don't like to think about him.
All-Star break is the 16th to the 18th. So yes, the 18th. So again, that's a month away. And we reported 2 weeks ago that he was getting said reps. So that's another 6 weeks.
I mean, he's going to be before the All-Star break.
Okay. All right, we'll see how much before.
Yeah.
We'll see how much before. All right. Let's see. Any other NBA news that we failed to report? I think that does it. But, ironically...
we had a game in London last week. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was big.
NBA is becoming a global game.
Yeah, we talked about that. When we talked about
the Fight Club
in the Dust Club. So just watch it, guys.
just watch it, fellas.
Yeah, just watch it. But I was gonna say, actually, we had a fan that calls himself Fly Guy 23.
Okay.
He said he loves the show.
Jordan fan, obviously.
And who isn't? He said he loves the show, but he had a question.
All right.
And the question was...
I'm only doing true and false today.
Back in the day, he says, The NBA was much more physical. It was refereed in a way that you could put hands on people, where nowadays you cannot put hands on people. And so he wanted to know that with the current superstars, and he named out a couple: KD, he named out LeBron, he named out Steph Curry. Will those players have the same type of success? Matter of fact, namely being the quote unquote best players in the league. Because if you ask anyone who the best players in the league are, you could, if you had give them 5, those 3 players are going to be of those 5, or else they don't watch basketball, right?
Right.
Will those 3 players specifically have the same success if they played in the hand check rule days, basically?
Steph would struggle with that, but I think the other 2 would be okay.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you too. Steph would struggle. I mean,
not struggle.
Right? Would he be an NBA player?
Yes.
Yes, he would, because he can shoot lights out. He's got great handles. He's got great basketball IQ. So yes, but would he be able to get anywhere he wanted to on the court, like he's able to sashay around through the league? No, they put that forearm in his bag.
He benefits from not having
put that
hand
one
on
hand in his
him.
bag that whole time, and so no, I don't think he'd be able to do. He'd be an excellent all-star player, I think.
Yeah,
and maybe 1 or 2 years, but
he'd be a nasty off the ball player. Because he works. The thing about Steph is,
put it this way: would he have his mouthpiece
well.
halfway out? No, he would not. He'd have it because it would be down his throat.
he run people off 2 or 3 screens like Reggie used to do and splash all day. The thing that would his with the ball in his hand, he wouldn't be quite as good in that area, because like you said, a hand check, you can push people off their thing, but catching and shooting, coming around picks catching, he could still do that at a high clip.
Yeah, but the question was, would he have the same success? And again, now Reggie Miller had success coming off screens and doing those types of things, but
not Steph Curry like success.
No, sir.
Like I said, I don't think Steph could have. I think he'd be a great player, probably an all-star.
Yeah,
but would he be what he is now? Nah, man. There's a lot of space he has from not being hand checked.
With those other guys, now LeBron, I think he's got the girth to back that up. Now KD, now some of his buckets he gets in that low post.
Who's that, KD?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's able to get those because, like you say, one, you can't touch him as much, and he's able to shoot over those people. But back in the day, I think he would have been pushed a little further away from the basket and would have been a little bit more, wouldn't have been as comfortable as he is shooting turnaround jump shots then and now. So would he be the second fastest to do it if he was back then? Maybe not. He'd get there.
I'm gonna say this though, it's a different game.
That's the question, because
because now we're talking about KD isolated 1-on-1 on a wing with no zone defense and no help. You got him 1-on-1 on a wing. Oh, that's barbecue chicken. So we talk about, would he be the second? No, he might be the first.
No, okay. Now when you say no, okay, ISO'd on the wing, sure, but once you get the ball, you can be double teamed.
Yeah, but it has to come immediately. It doesn't have to come immediately now.
No, I know. I mean, I got you. What you're saying is back in the day, it couldn't come until the player had the ball.
Like, if you caught the ball, the double team had to come immediately. You couldn't, stall out. Like, you know how you see them now on the weak side, outside the paint, and they stepping in and out.
Yeah, the defender can do that. Yeah, the defender can do that.
Yeah, before you couldn't do that.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. So he would have been isolated out there 1-on-1 with his 7-foot tall, can shoot from anywhere, long range himself. He would have been pretty good out there.
Oh yeah, no.
But he played a little differently? Probably so. His buckets would have come from a different spot, you know.
I think we both agree that they all would be NBA players, but I don't think Steph Curry would have the same success. And matter of fact. And we talk about success. A lot of their success was predicated and orchestrated, other than Steph Curry, on them being able to go where they wanted to and play who they wanted to. And so you couldn't do that back then. So maybe not.
Shout out for freedom of choice.
Yes, all right. So we're looking for the question. All right, so that's going to take us into our traditional segment of Did You Click It?
Did you click it?
For
Tell
those-
them about Did You Click It?
Yeah, for those who don't know, it's a little thing that Doc and I came up with. It's just based upon we sit around every day of our lives, almost every second of our lives, free moment of our lives. We go to a website, be it ESPN.com, be it NBA.com, be it Reddit or whatever, and the makers, the owners of those websites throw out stories they want you to read, which once you click the story,
It's the bait and click.
it's gonna give you the story and plus some little advertisements on the side so that you can help pay their bills. But and so some of them that interest us, and we definitely click the story. And some of us were like, nah, I'm not gonna take our time. I'm not gonna take the time to click that.
Not
story.
worth the click here.
So what we do is through the week we send a few stories to each other through text or email or however. And he says, yeah, man, this interests me, and I want to put this on the Did You Click It segment. And I'll send a few to him and say, yeah, and vice versa. And so you sent me a few.
Mm-hmm.
And so without further ado, I'm going to go through the ones that you sent me, and you're going to tell me about these in our Did You Click It segment.
All right.
So the first one was something about this little thing I know very little about. NBA jams.
Oh, that headline was a Boom Shakalaka. NBA Jam Day celebrates 25th anniversary of iconic video game. That was from ESPN. And yes, I absolutely clicked that.
And so for the fans that are over 47 years old, can you speak English?
Man, it's one of the greatest arcade games ever, especially for your hoops, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was basically based off the NBA, obviously.
And you said it was an arcade game?
It was an arcade game.
Okay.
Later became a house game on
Home
Sega
systems.
Genesis and
Okay.
Super Nintendo. But basically, it was 2-on-2 basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pick two players from every team in the league had two players selected, and you picked your team and you go battle it out on the hard court. Crazy dunks, threes. You know, the verbiage was crazy cool because they had the "he's on fire," so it just changed the
Okay.
game, man.
Okay. And you say that turns 25?
Turns 25.
So you clicked it, or did you?
I clicked it.
And did you, by clicking it, did it aid you in any way?
Man, it was good nostalgia.
It's just good nostalgia.
Yeah, it makes me want to go dig up my Sega Genesis and play real quick. Me and my cousin played that thing for hours.
All right, so there was another one that you sent me, something about a person that we'll have to say R.I.P. to, and that's a one Craig Sager. You said that there was a Craig Sager story that caught your attention.
Yeah, it was a little crazy because I didn't know Craig had this going on, but the headline was Craig Sager's kids say they were written out of the will day after his son's medical procedure to save the father's life. So I clicked it because I had never heard that all this was going on, and apparently, Craig Sager II had a procedure that was intended to help save Craig, but then they realized it wasn't going to help. The very next day, wrote that guy out of the will because of the new wife. Apparently didn't want the kids in the will.
Well, that happens sometimes when monies and families and things like that are involved. It seems that if what's reported is true, it seems to be unfortunate. But I don't know. All I guess I can say is.
The wicked stepmom does it again.
Or no, I was gonna say, maybe Sega was thinking, had the operation worked, we wouldn't have had to cut you in or out of the will. So it didn't work. So
It's either way, man. It's your son, man.
I got you. But again, when you go
And your daughter.
no, I understand. But when you get married, which I've never been married, I think it's you take that person. You forsake them over all others, and so maybe he takes that very seriously.
Maybe he did.
So there was another story that kind of interested me. I didn't see it, but it had something to do with the one Lori marketed.
Yeah. So this was another interesting one. Lori Markkinen says Phil Jackson made him eat raw meat during draft process.
So again, I mean, I want you to speak English for our fans, man. What does that even mean?
Okay, well, Lori.
Did you click that? Apparently you did.
Yeah, I'm about to tell you what happened,
okay,
man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I clicked that.
Okay, go ahead.
Because this is another one in the long line of what's wrong with Phil Jackson.
Well, I told you before he was senile.
I mean,
that's the answer to that question.
It was already run report. He fell asleep at somebody's draft workout. Dennis Smith Jr., the rookie in Dallas, said that Phil made
telltale signs
meet octopus at their draft meeting, and now we have the Bulls rookie Lori Markkinen saying that Phil also had him eat some kind of raw meat. So was this Phil's draft process strategy to see, I don't know, how adventurous maybe a player will be, or how willing to try something new? I don't know, or maybe he was just a weird old guy, man, on some tripped out stuff like, try to eat this meat, young man.
I told you what it is and what it was, man.
Twilighting.
I think Phil lost it. I think Phil, again, he was. I used to refer to Phil Jackson as coach. And again, I think coach has lost it. So, all right. So, there was another one that you talked about. We kind of talked about earlier the fact that was the T-Wolves a bigger threat to Golden State than anyone else.
Gotcha. That was another one I saw off of ESPN.
Yeah.
It's one of their 5-on-5s, and it's 5-on-5. Are the Thunder or Wolves a bigger threat to the Warriors? And no, I didn't click that because I didn't really need to read about that one too much because I just wanted to think about it on my own accord. And we kind of talked about it today. And what I feel is that I like what Minnesota's doing, but until I see what those young guys do in the playoffs, I'm tending to go with experience. And Russ, Paul George has a lot of playoff experience. Melo has a lot of playoff experience, and they're accomplished. They're all three accomplished players.
Well, Melo has a little playoff experience.
He's got a lot. He was in the Western Conference Finals over in Denver.
Yeah, but that was once, and then
a couple times. He was always in the playoffs. So until the New York debacle, he was always in the playoffs. Plus, he's an Olympic champion, and he's got an NCAA title to his belt. So he's got some experience. He gets buckets too. So.
All right. So another one you sent me was about wow. I wanted this show to be anti this subject, but there's a Lonzo / LeVar Ball sighting story, something in the news.
Yeah, man. Ball family at it again. They can't stay out of the media.
That's the part. At it again. You know what I mean?
At it again.
Enough.
NBC Sports. Do you like playing for Luke Walton? Lonzo Ball replies, I'll play for anybody. No, I didn't click it, but no, that's not a ringing endorsement of your coach.
Yeah.
Especially in light of the fact that your dad is saying that he's lost the team and that there are other rumors out there suggesting that Luke Walton has lost the team. So much so that Jeannie Buss and Magic Johnson had to put out statements, I believe, through Twitter saying that no, we have the utmost confidence.
I guess with Twitter, they also not only statements, it was pictures. I think they all were out.
We're having hanging out.
Jeannie and the coach were all out. Is what I saw. So again, to me, until you do something in the NBA other than tell me that you're going to do something or tell me that your kid's going to do something, it's a non-story for me. So I'm glad you didn't click it. All right, so you said you said something. You had a story about the NBA's all-time point leader, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Well, Kareem, all-time leading scorer, as you said, wrote an article for The Guardian. It's time to pay an opinion piece. It's time to pay the tab for America's college athletes. I absolutely clicked this because you know how I feel about the farce that is amateur college sports. So yeah, I read his article. He has some insightful things talking about, how athletes on scholarship are essentially working a job, that the coach actually gets paid for, and how other students who are on scholarship have an option to actually work a real paying job, and pay for little things that you need in life, and that unfortunately a lot of college athletes don't have money. And so it can be a struggle, and they're talking about how sometimes they don't eat even. So it was an interesting read, coming from a guy who's been there and seen it up close. So
Yeah, no, it's an age old argument that I think probably at some point, will come to a head, and it's gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings because there are a lot of people that love the NCAA and the way amateur quote unquote athletics is set up for the players. Again, most of them are misinformed on how it actually is run
Right.
and set up. So yeah, it again, he's not the first to talk about it. And hopefully he won't be the last. And at some point, at this point right now, it's just because Kareem's wanted to be a coach in the NBA for years, but because of some of his political views, we talked about. He's an insightful person. Some of his political views in the '60s and '70s, that's gonna prevent him from doing anything similar to that. So right now, it's a sure, I agree with you, but some of the powers that be, they don't read that, they don't care about that.
Oh no.
So,
Well, it's more about the people reading and understanding that it's not all gravy just because you're a college athlete on scholarship.
Correct.
You're not necessarily in a good spot because of that.
Right. And last one I think you sent me, you said you had something about, again, another kid that I said could and should be an all-star this year, one Jaylen Brown for the Celtics.
Yeah. Jalen had a good article. This is also from The Guardian. Guardian was pretty good this week. Jaylen Brown, sports is a mechanism of control in America.
I don't exactly know what that means. I know what those words mean, so I won't say break it down on the over 47 crowd. But what did you click the article first?
I absolutely clicked that one because, like you said, I didn't know exactly where he was going with this, so I had to click it. One, he's becoming one of my favorite young players because I like the way he plays, and I wanted to see where he's going with it. Very intelligent fella, absolutely, and he was just breaking down some of the social constructs in this country and how they come together and how sports is truly a part of that, and how in a lot of ways, sports is offered as a big time opportunity, especially in low socioeconomic areas, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not even a viable option for the vast majority of people, yet it's promoted as such in some areas. So it was a good little article. He's a very insightful guy, very insightful young man. So I like reading it because I didn't know that side of him. I just know he wreaks havoc on the basketball court, but come to find out, very, very smart guy, and has a really good brain on him. I like that.
Well, that's similar to the story that you piggyback to me, in my opinion, on the story that you just read about Kareem.
Yeah.
In that, these are age-old arguments that, if you got a wicked jump shot, you can get out of it. You can get out of certain economic situation,
Right.
which is true. But it's also like trying to win the lottery. And there's a million people on this block right now, or in this city right now that play the lottery with that same hope. Right. This one little thing's gonna get me out of here, and when it doesn't, you're still there. And so it's an age old thing. And so like you say, it's good to see that we have more insightful people in the league.
All right. Well, how about you? I know you sent me some ideas.
Yeah, I didn't have as many as you, but I had a couple. Because a lot of the articles that I ended up reading, we discussed in the news. But yeah, I had a couple.
Well, you talked to me about this LaMarcus Aldridge thing.
Yeah, I've been a Pop fan for a long time. I've been a Spurs fan for a long time. Only because they beat certain teams that I want beat. and they play
Yes,
good
they
basketball
do.
too. I mean, they with the Timmy, and I mean that's just solid basketball. So every now and then, when I needed them to beat Kobe, they would do that. And they beat LeBron early and I
late.
won't say often, but early and late, as you just said. So yeah. But yeah, following them last year, there was the LaMarcus Aldridge situation where, there was stretches of the game, stretches of the season, I should say, where he didn't play well. And so the article that I saw, it said LaMarcus Aldridge renaissance started when he talked to Pop, which is Greg Popovich, when he told Pop that he wanted to be traded. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah,
That's what you're doing? You
right.
walk in the office, hey man, I need to leave this.
Right, and this is after 1 year.
Wow.
And not even a whole year. So I definitely clicked the article. And so basically what it talked about, we talked about in an earlier podcast that LaMarcus is having a pretty good year, holding that team down. Yes, holding that team down in what, third place?
Yeah.
In a tough West, behind Golden State and Houston, and right in front of Minnesota, as we just talked about, for fourth place. But he's been holding them down without a Kawhi Leonard for most
Tony
of the
Parker.
For a good part of the season. So, and he's been a yeoman in that situation, and so we know he's had some type of resurgence. But I didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was. We just kind of figured out. Well, now it's just me giving space, and with that space feel clouded or clogged up once Kawhi got back, and at this point, it's the same thing. Steady she goes in that third spot. So far so good with that. But the article went on to say that basically just that he went into Pop and said, "Hey, I'm not used to the few number of touches, the way I'm being used, the spots I'm being used, and what I'm being asked." And Pop said that in the article that a player had never come to him and said that, which that kind of surprised me. Because I mean, you're a coach, and no one ever in your career has ever asked you that.
I mean,
Spurs
pick people, specifically for their system.
Right, and I guess that's not a spot that you want to lead. That's a spot that you want to gravitate to. But anyways, it Pop sent it through him, and so what he did, he said, was Pop was instead of being taken back by that. He went proactive and said, "Hey, maybe I need to take a look at things myself." Mm-hmm. And he said he and LaMarcus, started communicating much better. So much so that they would go out maybe to lunch or go out or just somewhere quiet where they could just talk and not only talk about basketball but talk about life and what you're expecting. And so they kind of bonded through that. So to me that was big, and that I think that can and will bode well for San Antonio going forward and once they reach the playoffs.
Looking good for them right now.
Yeah,
they sorted a lot of things out.
It's not hurt.
So all right, well, cool. You also gave me something. Scottie Pippen said him and MJ aren't friends or weren't friends or something.
Yeah, there was an article that I saw in a couple different spots that said the link said Pippen, and then it's the traditional quotation marks is what he said. Me and Michael weren't friends at first. And then, so with that one, I did not click that article because the headline to me said the whole thing, where it said he and Michael were not friends at first. And so, what does that mean? The very first moment that you met each other, and at some point you guys were on the same page, and I'm pretty sure
clearly good friends now.
Are they?
Yeah.
Is that a question?
No.
Oh, you said it seems that they are good friends right now.
Clearly they are.
I mean, again, you don't see one of them bashing each other, so I get that. So no, I didn't even waste the time to click
I think that article was probably written also in response to, I forgot who it was, but called out DeMar DeRozan for not speaking or having a relationship or friendship with Kyle Lowry when they first got to Toronto together. And same thing.
Means
and
nothing.
And what?
Means nothing.
And what? They're
nothing.
best friends now.
Right. And so even if they're not best friends, there have been and will be situations where people can function in a work environment with people that they don't necessarily are friends with.
Right.
So
whatever.
Yeah, it means nothing.
All right. Well, you also said you had some interesting clicking about Kobe.
Interesting might be might not be the words that I use, but it said Kobe, and my eyes continued to read the article. So I don't know if I call it interesting. It might be interesting to some people.
Okay. Well, it's the title.
But I didn't click it, so it didn't interest me that much. But the article said that Kobe's to have a new show where he on ESPN where he reviews film and helps younger players, or probably current players as well, analyze their game, and it's supposed to be in an effort to make them better. Now, I took it as it's kind of like going to be formatted like the coach for the Raiders, John Gruden, I think is his name, formatted the quarterback shows that he was doing for ESPN, and so one of the,
what was the title?
What was the title of what?
The article. What was it? Click it.
Again,
the link.
Kobe to have a new show on ESPN called Details.
Okay.
And it had the little colon where it said where he reviews film and analyzes it in order to help players better. I read it. It was off Reddit.
Gotcha.
So it was a long article.
I would have clicked that.
I
may Google that right now.
I'm not a Kobe fan, which is why I didn't click it. But again, if you go to Reddit for sure, I can probably dig it up.
All right, but that's
real
interesting
quick for you.
Well, we'll see. Kobe said he's into this whole storytelling and helping people thing. So
I mean, it's going to be interesting for those who are Kobe fans. It's going to be interesting for those
who are basketball fans.
Well, again, some basketball fans are not Kobe fans, like me. And so
I'm thinking younger fans who want to learn the game.
I got you, but some of the younger fans, as we talked about in age differences, Kobe may skip them a generation. Some younger fans may not know Kobe like that, or what they know about Kobe may say that I heard he was a ball hog, and so
well, they'll fine.
I'm just saying there's no absolutes. Not every fan is going to like this.
Sure.
Not every fan or every non-fan is going to be interested in this. That's all I'm saying. There's no absolutes. There's going to some life. Right. Right. That's all I'm saying. I'm one of those people that again, more power to you if that helps out you financially, ESPN financially. If it helps out the players that choose to come on and take you up on that, great. But again, does it interest me? Right? Did that interest me enough to click the article? No. Matter of fact, I kind of laughed at it because again, from what I know about Kobe, I just mentioned is more he's more of a less a sharer than something like that's gonna
Apparently, he's gonna share knowledge, so that may be bigger than sharing the basketball.
I got you. So we'll see.
All right.
So those are my did you click it?
Well, you have one more.
Matter of fact, I did.
Told me D West said something.
Yeah,
David West.
Right, this is as we talked about, an NBA weekly wrap up show where we two hoop heads get together and babble about what they think they know about basketball, and so it's not political at all. But when something happens this week in the NBA, we call it our function, our duty to report on it. And so one of the things that happened, David West, as you mentioned, there was I'll put it this way. I'll read you the headline. It says Golden State's David West posts thoughtful reply to Trump's immigration comments. And now by Trump, I'm assuming that they're meaning President Donald Trump. And so that interested me.
You mean the shithole comments?
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. That interested me in a bunch of ways. What happened was we all know that Donald Trump called Haiti and then some African nations, or allegedly, shithole countries. Trump has softly denied it, and I say softly because initially when asked, he didn't answer the question at all, and then through people he says he denied it. There were people that were allegedly in the room that initially did the same thing, softly denied it, and then some later said that yes, no, I did hear him say that. Anyways, so, if we all know that Trump also made comments about the NFL players early in the year, or late last year, I should say, when they stopped taking a knee, or started taking a knee, I should say, for the national anthem in the National Football League, and he made reference to them. We know for sure, there's no denying that, and he called them sons of bitches. And so, trust me, if he had made that comment during the NBA season, we would have talked about Trump before now. But he hadn't, and he didn't. But now that an NBA player has made a statement regarding Mr. Trump, I thought I would like to bring it to the show. And basically, like you mentioned, we know that Trump called those nations shithole countries. And so what David West did, what I would like to do, is to add some intelligent insight into this conversation. Because if we just go with, oh, well, he's an idiot, I mean, that's just two people calling each other names. And there's nothing to be gained from that. So what I would like for the listeners that have no idea about the history of Africa, the history of the world, history of countries where dark people are the main inhabitants of that country, and to look at where those countries used to be and where those countries currently are now, the hows and whys. Educate yourself. Forget about Snapchat just for a moment. Forget about Instagram, your IG pics just for a moment, and really educate yourself on, well, how did those countries become to be characterized such, whether it's true or not? How did that happen? So, like what David West did, he posted a picture on Twitter, and the picture was of a passage from a book that was written a long time ago. I think it was in the 1500s, 1561 to be exact. And it was just the history, the book is titled The History of the Indies. And it just talks about how this Spanish historian, and again, we know where Spain is, and we know the history of Spain and their explorers, quote unquote. So again, and I say we, it means that there are some people that have taken the time to study these types of things. But for those of you who had not, this is what I'm talking to. Educate yourself on how Haiti became Haiti of today. How Africa, the cradle of civilization, became what it is today. Take your time. Again, just maybe 30 minutes. Google it. Leave Miss Kardashian alone for a second, and just take your time and educate yourself. So I won't call a name. I'll do similar to what David West did. Take the time to try to educate people on. Again, numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story. And so that's what I'll say to that. Any comments, sir?
I think you said that. I mean, I think that's a heavy topic. I read that what David West posted. Very insightful, and I think it's good for people who haven't studied the world, haven't left the country. Like, it's easy for someone to sit up and call another place horrible if you've never even been there, don't know anybody from there. And I think that comment that was made by the president was just wrong. And it is hurtful, it's demeaning, and it's inappropriate. And it wasn't befitting of the office of the president. And sadly, there are plenty of people in this country who won't see a problem with it. And I think that's a problem. And I think, like you say, we must educate ourselves, because somewhere out there, there's someone saying, well, what did he say was wrong? What was wrong with what he said? And to me, that's the problem, is that we have to understand why that's wrong and how we got to this place. And a thorough understanding of history is definitely needed. And I think that's what David West was trying to explain in his very simple but very thoughtful post. And I'm happy he did that. I like David West. He's been a good player. Smart fella. I like him. And I appreciate what he did.
Yeah, and matter of fact, to that, I'll just chime in. Even some of the people, like you mentioned, you said two things. You said you shouldn't, judge, if you've not gone to other places. I mean, some of the, and then you said, some people, unfortunately, will agree with his statements.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those people that will agree with his statements do things like, I'm going to go over to Somalia and adopt 5 kids and but they still agree with him with saying that.
Sure.
Because of their mindset. And again, if even those people would educate themselves.
Yeah. We got a lot of work to do in this world, man.
Sure. And again, that's why I say, when I say put the Instagram down, I mean, if nothing else, I can talk to myself and say, put NBA.com down and learn more yourself about history and about the world, and what really is going to make us better humans and things like that. So that's all I'm going to ask. That's all I'm going to ask, is that you take the time to educate yourself. So, and also I think it was pretty cool that
translation don't believe the hype.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, find out for yourself. I mean, if what you research shows you that he was correct, get off Breitbart and read something else. But more power. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you.
You're not going to find that. Like I said, it was also cool. I think there's a couple of players from basketball that one Andre Iguodala, he retweeted it with the tweet preach associated with it.
Right.
There was a couple of players from Major League Baseball that commented on it. I think Usai Ujiri, which is I think the general manager for the Toronto Raptors, he's Nigerian himself, and so he's from an African nation. So even though he didn't say all African nations, he said some. And so we don't know what that means. Nigeria. So again, it hits hard, it hits personal. And that's just not, to me, not even just the befitting of the office of
a human being.
Calling names. Your name calling?
That's what we're doing these days.
Anyway, like you said, there's a long way to
go. I think for me, truthfully, and I really just like to talk about hoops, but really, what got me when I heard that this comment was made was I wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah. No, we're not. And so hopefully, like we say, through meaningful dialogue, we can change stuff like that.
But yeah, it's not okay. We got to do better, people.
Yes, I it would behoove us. All right, so that about wraps it up for this edition of the Doc and GM show.
Yep.
I appreciate everybody out there for listening, being involved. Doc, if you do us one more favor and tell us where we can be found.
SoundCloud, Doc and GM, and also coming soon to YouTube, Doc and GM NBA Recap. Follow us, like us, do all that cool stuff, and we're going to keep bringing this NBA news because somebody's got to do it, and we love to do it.
All right, so for the doc, I'm GM. I will say, listen.